And so our next presenter, I think she's doing some of that, and it's pretty exciting. She's the founder and CEO of 4D Healthware. Her company's created an app they utilize and track basically healthcare data. So, please welcome to the stage, Star Cunningham.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here at Cusp. I count that as an honor and a privilege. Let's talk a little bit about perfection. The art of being perfect, flawless, faultless, without blemish. Anybody out there perfect? Think about your perfect day, your perfect vacation. What is your perfect meal? Everyone in this room has a different definition of that which is perfect. So why does the word even exist? Why do we have in our vocabulary the word perfect? We might even use it to describe our children. I know I use it to describe my kid. My kid's perfect. He's cute, dresses nice, 7 years old, listens to me most of the time, and in general, I think he's pretty perfect. Now, I'm here to tell you that when he gets into my Burt's Bees and chews it up, I don't think he's perfect. But it's all in how I respond to him. His name is Kai Carrington, by the way, and he has his own Twitter handle with more followers than me, which I'm still trying to figure out, but I digress. So, if I can say, and if you ask me later, I will say, yeah, he's perfect. What does it really mean to have perfection, purpose, and pain in our life? Because see, if we're perfect and perfection, that whole idea gives this sense of euphoria. And when we think about that perfect meal, that perfect vacation, all of those things that we define as perfect, we get happy. We like it when we have a perfect meal and we can sit back and be satisfied. But that means that there has to be an opposite feeling when things aren't perfect. Fear, frustration, pain, anger. So, is that a valid response to that which is not perfect? Well, I stand here before you in pain. I have a metal rod in my spine, hip, and shoulder. It's how they corrected scoliosis back when I was a kid. They don't do that anymore because you have things in your body that need to move naturally, and they don't move when you have a metal rod holding them in place. So I have great posture, but I'm in chronic pain. I also have Crohn's disease. Anybody familiar with Crohn's? Yeah, it's a digestive disorder. So now imagine I have to take medication to manage my chronic pain. But I also have Crohn's disease. I have a few less miles of piping than the average person. So when I have to take Vicodin and Valium for my back pain, and I'm taking 1,000 milligrams of Vicodin, that may sound like it's a lot. But my body is not absorbing it all. Now, I was privileged. I worked for IBM, Smarter Planet, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. And while doing that, I was able to travel the globe. I worked on every continent with the exception of Antarctica, and I used to have this really great joke that talked about winters in Chicago and how I've been in Antarctica by default, but it was 90 degrees 2 days ago, so that just doesn't work anymore. But anyway, you can imagine traveling the world, Crohn's disease, chronic pain, changing environments, changing diets. I lived in South Africa for over a year and a half. I've been to Oman and Dubai and Prague, and I literally worked around the globe, and for better or worse, what that means is that I consumed health care all over the globe. And while I was doing that, I learned a few things. I learned that in this country, a developed country, there are things that we do very well. We diagnose and we treat. And then there are some things that we're pretty crappy about. Prevention and maintenance. So, as an IBM executive, Platinum, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, we pay for everything insurance, I've been the victim of data not being where it needed to be, when it needed to be there, for the person who is most vested in my health, me, to be able to make a good decision about what to do next. It's quite the quandary for anyone who is managing chronic disease, who's helping aging parents, and sadly, even those who have sick children. It's not easy to put all of the different pieces and parts together to know what it is that should be done next. I go in for a primary care appointment feeling pretty good, and believe you me, when I have good days, I cherish my good days. I'm feeling pretty good. It's just the primary care. Checkup, right? Checkup. Get a lab result back. Iron levels are low. Okay. So we're going to prescribe iron. We're going to pick that up at Walgreens on the way home. Cool, I can do that. I'm a compliant patient. I head right over to Walgreens. They hand me my iron, take 2 pills 3 times a day. 48 hours later, I'm in front of my gastro, doubled over in pain. My gastro looks at me and says, "You were just here a couple of days ago, and everything was fine. What happened?" What happened? You asking me? You have that fancy system that you're sitting in front of, called an electronic medical record. You're on the 6th floor, they're on the 4th floor. Can't you guys figure out what happened while I was here? No, they can't. Because even in one health system, every department has an IT budget. And even though they all buy Epic, Cerner, McKesson, they all customize so that it fits their needs. And as a result, those systems kind of sort of don't talk to each other. So I said to my gastro, well, yeah, I came in, I was feeling pretty good, I had a checkup and went to Walgreens and picked up the iron. And you did what? I picked up the iron and I started taking it. Well, then that's the problem. You are being poisoned by the iron. You don't have enough piping to process that much iron. Stop taking it. You'll feel better in 48 hours. As someone with my experience, I had a few questions. Question number 1. Why didn't I know that was too much iron? Why didn't I know that would be a bad idea? Because I would not have taken it, right? Okay, that's question number one. Question number two, why didn't my doctor know that if I have Crohn's disease and I only have this much inside left, that probably was going to be too much iron for me? Okay? Number three, why didn't the lab know that if I'm feeling pretty good and have been feeling pretty good and I have that iron level, is it possible that that level is normal for me? Number five, when I got to Walgreens, Walgreens knows me, right? They're on the corner of happy and healthy. They know me. Why didn't my pharmacist say, oh, they prescribed you this much iron and you have Crohn's disease. This might not be a good idea. So before I hand it to you, I am going to make a phone call to make sure that this is okay. Why, when there are so many gates of opportunity, did I end up in front of the gastro 48 hours later? And remember, everyone, please take this to heart. Platinum, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, IBM Insurance. Call the gastro 10 o'clock in the morning, in there by noon. Fairly educated, earned my MBA at Kellogg. I like to keep track of what's going on with my body. I have a vested interest in feeling good. If that happened to me, how often does it really happen? How many people get sick every day because the right decision was not made for them? Let's go ahead and take it one step further. Are people dying because data isn't where it needs to be, when it needs to be there for good decisions to be made? I would have been in the emergency room by Sunday and surgery by Monday had I stayed on that regimen. Are there people who don't have the access that I have in order to be able to get the care they need that would rectify a situation like that? And everybody's nodding. All the answers to all of those questions is, man, that is pretty darn screwed up when you really start to think about it. So how irresponsible would it be of me as an individual if I chose to not do anything about that? My background is IBM. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. I was there before they named Watson. Okay? If I have that type of background and experience, what would happen if I came up with a way to make sure that data was where it needed to be, when it needed to be there, for the person that's most interested in the data, the individual or their caregiver, to make a good decision about what to do next? So after a bottle of Merlot, that's what I did. I sat in front of the fireplace, and I started looking at this movement called the quantified self. Anybody heard of that, the quantified self movement? That's when people started buying wearables. I didn't get to see how many people raised their hand, but people started buying wearables, started measuring things, started keeping binders and records. So if I get sick, I have data and information that physicians can use to help me, right? Right? That makes sense. I'm going to take my blood pressure at home. I'm going to do and I'm going to get all this data. And if I get sick, I'm going to go and I'm going to hand it to the doctor. He's going to be so happy. He's going to be thrilled that I Googled and that I learned all this stuff. And I'm sitting down and having a conversation with him, right? Wrong. Wrong. Doctors came out and said, oh, that Fitbit thing, that's just a fad. It's not clinically proven. It's not going to work. People aren't going to be using it. And I kind of say, well, they had a $100 million IPO. So I think consumers kind of decided that. And when you start talking about empowering people who have chronic disease to better self-manage, what you're doing is equipping them. If they're diabetic, they get a Bluetooth-enabled glucometer. Overweight, wireless scale. Hypertensive, blood pressure cuff. Cardio issues, electrocardiogram approved by the FDA that can be utilized at home. Proteas, medication management. Did you know that there's a pill that you can take that can determine the efficacy of the medication while it's in your bloodstream? It has to do with nanoparticles and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'll talk about that another day. But this stuff is out there. It exists. You go to the average physician, hey, I got a heart condition, I'm going to get this AliveCore and a Proteus, and I'm going to be using them at home. And, yeah, let me put this stethoscope up to your chest. Well, you do need a physician to put a stethoscope up to your chest sometimes. But if you have the tools to self-manage, you will have information when you are not in front of the physician. And even if I'm very generous and send you to the physician once a month, that's 12 times a year. So that other 350 days, you with yourself. And you need to figure out what you're going to do in order to manage. Now, that'd be a lot of work for you to do, right? Let's just say if you were, and most people who have one illness have two or more, the comorbidities. Let's say you are diabetic, hypertensive, and overweight, and you're collecting all this data. What in the heck are you going to do with it? How do you know if it's good or bad? How do you know what is that one thing you're going to do or focus on today to make certain that you feel a little bit better today than you did yesterday, and you have a goal of feeling a little bit better tomorrow? That's where that AI and machine learning comes in. Over 400 devices are connected to my platform. I only keep track in the hundreds because if I tried to go every day and check how many were there, so it's over 400. And once you're connected to the 4D Healthware platform, we have software that watches you, right? So you're taking your blood pressure at home, starts running a little bit high, stays consistently high. Our patient engagement advisor is going to contact you to say, what's going on? Taking your medication, get off track a little bit, how can we help you? We even have high-definition telemedicine. We can walk with you to the pantry, help you once you finish off that last box of Fruity Pebbles. We're going to make a different decision. Help you to know that, hey, that 2 liter of soda that you have, that you get through in 2 days, we're just going to work on getting a smaller glass. And let's see if we can make that bottle last a week. There are small incremental changes that are the building blocks that my software helps people to work on in order to better self-manage and lead healthier lives. Today, primarily utilized by those covered by Medicare. Private insurers follow Medicare, so they're starting to figure this thing out and pick up payment for it. Paying for the devices, paying for the software, paying for my time. The payment models are in place. And what's going to be really changing and moving the needle on this $3 trillion health problem is when we are able to connect young people who are already inclined to utilize the phone and devices and things like that so that we can begin to gather this data that prevents them from getting sick. So now imagine you have the data, it's in the right place with the right person at the right time to make effective decisions. That's the goal. The journey itself, from sitting in front of the fireplace with the bottle of Merlot and an idea, to standing in front of you, having raised over $2 million in capital, with physicians and patients utilizing the platform, has not been perfect. Far from perfect. No, people aren't going to use devices at home. No, you cannot get a senior citizen to use a smartphone. No. No one is going to want to have a care plan in front of them and be reminded what they should do and not do. And no, this will never work. No, 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 no. But I kept going. Payment models changed. Over $32 billion in markets were created. We have to figure out how to better manage people because no one is using the patient portal. Really? And let me tell you why. Consumer-facing products are not the art of your physician, and you don't want it to be. You don't want it to be. You want your physician to be a clinician, not a technologist. But you need technology, people. Think about banking. Do you know what banking said? Banking said, never will a person not want to have a paper check. People like to see their money. Never will a person not want to have a conversation with a banker. People want to look at the teller across the counter and shake their hand and get their money. Talk to them today. I don't know about you, but they built 2 brand new Bank of Americas in my neighborhood that are empty. Like, you can just walk right up in there and there are people standing around. What do you guys do all day? Oh. Healthcare is that final frontier where things are changing. And they're changing for the better, albeit slowly. But hopefully one day we will have the Nordstroms of healthcare. So I'm going to circle back to this idea of perfection. I found purpose in my pain. That quote-unquote negative emotion, fear, anxiety, frustration, you too can find purpose in pain. It's all in how you respond to that which is not perfect. And you can define it as perfect if you choose to do so. Vince Lombardi says, perfection is not attainable. But if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. If we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. You can catch a ball. You can catch a cold. Some days you're going to catch hell. But imagine the euphoria that exists when we all catch excellence. Thank you.